I'm going to show you how to reclaim the credit of your own soul and transform the anguish of seeking approval into a ground that does not shake beneath your feet. Every time you betray your principles to please the world, a door closes from the inside, and the silence of the conscience becomes a deafening noise that sickens the being. As someone who has dedicated over 40 years to expressing the soul through art and sound, I've learned that a man's greatest work is the coherence between what he vibrates and what he delivers. You may think you need external validation to feel secure, but true security is born precisely when we stop being a bargaining chip in the market of others' expectations. Today, we will begin a 15-minute journey to convert your existential pain into the credit that even death cannot take away. There is a weariness that sleep cannot cure. It is the fatigue of carrying a mask that no longer fits, but that we insist on wearing so the world keeps recognizing us. How many times have you felt invisible even while surrounded by people? This happens because, deep down, you know that who they are seeing isn't you, but the version you molded to be accepted. In this meeting, we won't look for magic self-help formulas. We will seek the silence that reveals the truth. We will investigate why the quest for approval has become the most expensive commodity of our existence, and how self-betrayal closes the paths to our spiritual prosperity. Prepare yourself for a soul-to-soul conversation where the goal isn't to get anywhere, but rather to return home, to your center, to your essential being. We live in a time where identity seems to have become a commodity. There is a silent anguish in those who live to please. The perception that, by trying to maintain credit with the world, they end up losing their own internal credit along the way. It is an unconscious pattern, a search for security in the eyes of others that makes us vulnerable to the impermanence of outside opinion. When you turn yourself into a bargaining chip to receive acceptance, your value begins to depend on the market rate of someone else's ego. Observe how this dynamic drains your vital energy. By seeking the yes of another, you frequently utter a devastating no to your own intuition. This thirst to be seen and validated is the symptom of an internal desert. We try to dig wells in someone else's backyard when the spring has always been beneath our own feet. It takes courage to accept that not everyone will applaud us when we decide to be authentic, but it is at that exact moment that we stop being slaves to the currency of approval and start being masters of our own destiny. This incessant search for approval isolates us in a hungry ego, but the African wisdom of Ubuntu reminds us of a forgotten truth. I am because we are. When we try to be a bargaining chip to please others, we aren't just wearing ourselves down. We are wounding our participation in humanity. For if I betray my essence to be accepted, I deliver a lie to the world, and a community of lies can never sustain the soul. It is in this detour that we enter a dangerous territory, the labyrinth of self-betrayal. Self-betrayal is a labyrinth where the walls are built by our own concessions. When we betray our essential principles, the doors of the soul close long before any reaction from the outside world. The spiritual paradox here is profound. The silence you buy in the external world costs the unbearable noise of a heavy conscience. As Jung said about the process of individuation, what we do not face internally, we will encounter outside as fate. Every little lie told to avoid conflict is one more brick in this internal isolation. Over time, you stop trusting yourself, and that is the most painful form of loneliness. The universe does not flow through a channel obstructed by the denial of one's own being. The cure for this labyrinth is not in finding an external exit, but in stopping the run and facing the minotaur of your own shadows, admitting where and why you abandoned yourself in exchange for a peace that, in reality, never existed. Among the Dagra people in Burkina Faso, it is taught that each of us is born with a sacred purpose, and the greatest poverty is not a lack of goods, but the forgetting of who we are. The thinker Sobonfu reminds us that self-betrayal is, in fact, a state of spiritual amnesia. When the doors close from the inside, it is our ancestry calling us back to order. To exit this labyrinth, we don't need perfection, but a compass that reconnects us to our true name, a coherence that serves as our north in the storm of the ego. Oftentimes we confuse integrity with a rigid moralism, which is nothing more than the spiritualized ego trying to feel superior. But real coherence is an ethical compass that sustains the essential being. Having an internal north doesn't mean never making a mistake, but rather having a point of return that keeps us whole even when the storm of the ego tries to blow us off course. It is the Stoic wisdom of focusing on what is within our control, our intention and our response to life. Perfection is an ice statue, cold and lifeless. Coherence is a winding river, but one that always flows toward the sea. Being coherent means that, even when you stumble, you know where you were heading and you have the honesty to start again from the truth, not the mask. This internal compass is what allows you to sleep in peace, knowing that although you are not perfect, you are real. It is this reality that attracts the right connections and the opportunities that truly resonate with your vibrational frequency. This coherence, when practiced with honesty, stops being just a direction and becomes the ground we walk on. In African traditions, the earth is not just matter, it is an altar of presence. When we stop negotiating our values, we transform our internal compass into a solid foundation. What was uncertainty becomes a root. It is the birth of the ground that does not shake, a territory of dignity where others' opinions lose the power to knock us down, because we are planted in our own truth. How do we transform timeless values into a practical foundation? Principles are the soil of presence. When others' opinions sway like the wind, the individual who possesses an internal foundation remains firm. This is the metaphor of the internal ground, a stability that does not depend on the world's calm, but on the depth of your roots in truth. It is the fertile void of Taoism, where strength resides in that which is essential and invisible. Imagine a tree during a gale. What sustains it is not the beauty of its leaves, but the invisible strength of its roots. Our principles, such as honesty, compassion, and integrity, are those roots. Without them, any praise inflates us and any criticism topples us. By cultivating this ground that does not shake, you stop reacting to events and start responding to them with sovereignty. You become the mountain. The weather around you changes, the clouds pass, but the mountain remains in its place of rest and wisdom. And upon this firm soil, our voice gains a new weight. The Molian master Amadou Hampate Bar said that the word is the very fabric of life, a vital breath that organizes chaos. For the guardians of oral tradition, failing one's word is to unravel one's own existence. Thus, what was once used to buy acceptance now becomes the currency of the word, an unshakable spiritual credit, the only baggage that truly honors who we were and that even death is unable to take. At the end of all temporary paths, consciousness is the only baggage that truly crosses the portal of existence. The word given, the commitment to truth, and spiritual responsibility are the ultimate expression of this internal wealth. Honoring your own word is accumulating a credit that impermanence does not corrode and death cannot take. It is the legacy of the soul that remains vibrating in the universe. Your word is your power of creation. When you say something and fulfill it, you are aligning your will with the force of life. This spiritual credit is what we call moral authority. It isn't something you buy or fake. It is something that emanates. In the silence of your room, or in the final breath of the journey, what will matter won't be how much you accumulated in the world's bank, but how clean and valuable your treasure in heaven is, the certainty that you went through life without selling your own soul. And what if the pain you feel today from not being accepted is, in fact, the portal to the freedom of no longer needing to be a bargaining chip? This week, before you say yes to someone, pause for 3 seconds. Feel if that yes closes or opens a door inside of you. Observe if your word is being used to build your ground or to buy an applause that will soon fade away. If these words touched something inside you, perhaps it is the moment to take one more step on this path of reconnecting with your inner truth. subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to continue receiving content that nourishes the soul with presence and authenticity. Enjoy the channel's posts, and to continue expanding this field of presence, we suggest the video pinned in the card. Share in the comments what resonated with your heart. Your story might be the mirror someone else needed to find. Peace and light.